The new podcast, In the Shadow of Princeton, starts as the matriarch of a prominent Princeton family is found stabbed to death in her locked basement. Investigators look from a serial attacker to her family to Princeton University students. One hot-blooded investigator sees a conspiracy. Is he way off base, or does privilege let you get away with murder? In the Shadow of Princeton is available wherever you get podcasts, or you can binge it ad-free by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See detail.
Hey Eagles fans, this is Chris Franklin from NJ Advanced Media, and welcome to the No-Huddle Show podcast, the show where we discuss all things related to the Philadelphia Eagles. Before we begin, I want to remind you that you can read our content on NJ.com/Eagles, and be sure to bookmark that to get your latest Eagles news and analysis. Today, I'm once again joined by my No-Huddle Show co-hosts, Bob Brookover and Cayden Steele. Well, it's that week every time that happens that everybody looks forward to around this area. It's Cowboys week. The Eagles are going to travel down to Texas in Arlington, the AT&T Stadium, to take on the Dallas Cowboys. We'll get more into that as well, too. But first, I want to bring in Bob and Cayden. Guys, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Yawn. Cowboys, Eagles, yawn. Cowboys without Dak. Cowboys without a running back. Cowboys not very good. I guess they get Micah Parsons back perhaps, but it's as Cowboys Eagles go, not the most exciting week for Cowboys Eagles. Although the Eagles haven't won down there in like forever. I think last time they won there, didn't they win a Super Bowl?
Yep.
Yeah, that's there's getting some distance between that and who was president? Oh, Donald Trump was president back then. Yeah, never mind.
How you doing, Cayden?
Good. I'm excited to go down I guess, or do they play in Arlington? I guess, but Dallas this weekend just to see the game. I've never been to the Cowboys Stadium, so I've only heard how cool it is once you get inside, and it's just excited to see that rivalry in person in Dallas for the first time. Even though maybe it doesn't have the excitement that I had maybe before the year because it's the Eagles versus Cooper Rush in the Dallas Cowboys now, but still excited to go down.
Yeah, it's an interesting place. It is a nice stadium, and it's always weird. There's a Walmart right across the street. It really is. It's what it's like. Wait, what? Okay, and the people are tailgating in a Walmart, but yeah, different place. And we'll get more into that Eagles-Cowboys rivalry later on in the show. But we're going to start off with our kickoff question here, and it basically is going back to what happened on Tuesday, or what didn't happen on Tuesday. The Eagles did not make a trade at the deadline. Bob, I'm going to start with you on this one. Was it the right decision, and are they one of the top two teams in the NFC after the deadline?
It's a hard question to answer because you don't know. What we don't know is what was on the table, what wasn't on the table, what other teams were asking for. So it becomes hard to answer in that respect. But in respect of, did the Eagles need to upgrade their team? The one area has been talked about ad nauseum is they need to upgrade the pass rush. It's obviously been better for the last 3-4 weeks. Josh Sweat in particular has been really good. He had 2 sacks last week. But they're asking an awful lot of Brandon Graham right now. He played the second most snaps. I think he played 37 snaps. And they said Bryce Huff's wrist was a problem. He only played 6 snaps. It was a very, very weird situation because, he played 6 snaps, but 4 of them were the last 4 snaps of the game. Vic Fangio said, his other guys were gassed. Well, if that's the case, there's a problem there. So they really needed to. I think they needed to upgrade there. Nolan Smith has flashed and played better, but it's basically those four guys that they're depending on. So the part two of that question is: are they one of the two best teams in the NFC? Um, they're in the conversation for sure. We're probably going to find out in the next few weeks here. They, you know, to me right now, Detroit is the best team in the NFC, if not the entire NFL. Uh, they've steamrolled teams. They've been really good even without Aiden Hutchinson. They did upgrade at that position after losing Aiden Hutchinson for the season. They did go get an upgrade from the Browns and Darius Smith. Um, I, you know, the I think the 49ers still have to be in the conversation with Christian McCaffrey on the horizon coming back. Or what are they going to look like? They have other issues besides that, but I think they need to be in the conversation. And then we're going to find out. And if just less than next week on this day, we're going to find out just how good the Commanders are, or not, where the Eagles, how the Eagles compare to them. But they're in the conversation for the top two teams in the NFC. But the next few weeks are definitely going to prove a lot. For sure.
And what do you think, Hayden? Do you think they're one of the top two teams after deadline, and do you think they should have made a move?
Yeah, I do think there was a need to fill at edge rusher. It's definitely their weakest position, and when it comes down to the playoffs in January, that could be the thing that ends up haunting them is that they didn't add that pass rusher. But at the same time, I'm not really sure who was available. It seems like Zadarius Smith for 2 or 3 weeks was linked to the Lions, and that was kind of um, going to happen pretty much no matter what. They just came to an agreement with compensation, but it seems like he was heading to Detroit the whole time. And Josh Uche was already off the board to Kansas City. And Baron Browning in Arizona. There just wasn't a lot out there. Maybe they could have been a little proactive earlier on. Got someone a couple weeks ago before these names came off the board. But I'm not sure if adding, I don't know, Chase Young or whoever would have been a significant upgrade over who they currently have, especially with where Young is and where some of these other players, maybe even like a Jadeveon Clowney is at the at this point in their careers. They're not very impactful or super good players anymore either. So maybe Vic, and Nick, and when they say they feel good about their roster, they're speaking the truth because we've seen Josh Sweat look more like the player that we saw in 2022 over the last few weeks, and even the first half of last season. Like he's looked like a legit number one edge rusher, and is that because he's gone against Jacksonville's offensive line and the Giants' offensive line, and like a mediocre Bengals offensive line? Like maybe, but like he's been playing better. Nolan Smith's improved. Brandon Graham's still been productive this season. So in the coverage, I think is a big factor. I think maybe they feel good about the pass rush because the coverage has been so much better, and people always talk about how that's a marriage. So maybe they think they can get by on a decent pass rush as long as the coverage keeps holding up the way it does. So I don't know. It's definitely a risk, but I don't think it's like the end of the world because I just don't know what else was out there. But in terms of just being one of the best teams in the NFC, talent wise, I think they're the second best team on the NFC. I think if you just looked at it on paper and with the stars that are on this team, with AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and Saquon, and the offensive line, and if you look at how the young defensive players are developing, it's hard. It's easy to me to make that argument that they are the second most talented team in the NFC besides Detroit, and maybe just as talented, arguably. But I think the thing we'll find out over the next 9 weeks is how good of a coach is Nick Sirianni. I think I still have my concerns about some of his decision making. I think maybe some of it got a little overplayed for some of his decisions against Jacksonville, but like I still have my concerns. Is Nick Sirianni a better coach than Dan Campbell? Is he a better coach than Matt LaFleur? Is he a better coach than um, all these stuff? Kevin O'Connell, like a better coach than Dan Quinn? I don't know that. So I think that's what we'll find over the next 2 weeks. Like, is Nick Sirianni a better coach than those guys? Because I don't know if the rosters there's a significant gap between Detroit and Minnesota and Washington, and enough to the point where if the Eagles have bad coaching, they can overcome it. So that's what I'm going to be watching out for.
And at the trade deadline, I think it's like when you're looking for like a. I never thought they were going to get Miles Garrett. I never did. And people that started floating out there. It's like, wait a minute, that's more of like a. To me, that's more of a draft day type, a couple weeks before the draft type, because that's going to involve number one picks. And when I saw that, and I spoke to somebody who saw that too, who's in the scouting world, and he's like, "What? I don't know. People just throwing stuff out for clicks now." So it's kind of like that thing. I didn't foresee that coming. But when you look at all the other stuff, the Eagles have to. One thing they have to really look at now, especially going into next season, they have AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, all they're going to be making a lot more money, and when you look at the cap next year and who's going to be affected, and the fact that they traded for Jahan Dotson earlier in the season, they gave up that third round pick. It you got it's one of those assets that you thought like that's pretty much that was to me that was the best asset they had to make a move to improve this team. And because they still need to keep some of those draft picks because you need the younger, cheaper talent. So to I didn't think they were going to be really make a move. The wide receiver stuff, nah, I didn't foresee that either because A, they got Jahan Dotson, and B, you say, oh, they paid more for Jahan Dotson than they had than DeAndre Hopkins. Yeah, there was no way he was coming here because then who's not going to get the ball in this offense, and you want to keep everybody happy in terms of that and gapping out anything else. So yeah, and as far as the two best teams in this conference, I'm at the point where I'm leaning yes, but I can't believe I'm saying this. The way that the Washington Commanders are playing right now, and even if it's a cake schedule, would you say, even as a rookie, they're playing extremely well. And we hear so much about complementary football where their defense picks up the offense and vice versa. They actually look like one of those teams that can streak late. I really believe that, and they're set up to play well. They rely on the run. When you look at the successful teams that make playoff runs, they rely on the run. They do well. Their passing game is high percentage throws that Jaden Daniels is making, and they have that X factor with Daniels too. So I think they're the second team. They're training towards yes, but I'm not fully on board yet because Commanders are playing extremely well. It's gonna be a fun time to watch the rest of this season because there's a lot going on in terms of that. Now, in terms of we're going to bring up a new segment now. It's called the Inside Slant. I told you guys last week we're going to do something a little different as well too, incorporate something. Well, this new segment is where we each share a piece of news involving the Eagles from this past few days that we think is important, and we're going to give our takes on why it is and why people should be looking for something and what have you. So, Kate, I'm going to start with you. What's your inside slant? What thing is up on your mind?
Yeah, the thing that caught my eye yesterday was during the Nick Sirianni press conference when he was talking to Bryce Huff, and I think that's the biggest thing to monitor over the next few weeks in terms of just like a certain player is when someone asked him about Bryce Huff's role going forward. He said he's still in the mix, but he also mentioned that they could also give Jalen Hunt, who's impressed in practice, a bigger role soon as well. And I think the fact that it was a weird situation at the end of the Jacksonville game, and he only played 6 snaps. And I know they were talking about the wrist injury, but just the way this entire year has transpired, and it hasn't seemed at any point through the first 9 weeks that Vic Fangio has been super confident in Bryce Huff. I remember even 2 or 3 weeks ago when they asked him about when Bryce Huff was starting to play better. I don't remember if it was after the Giants or Browns game, but about him starting to, it looked like he was starting to come together as a pass rusher a little bit. And Vic didn't give him like the biggest compliment in the world. Just said, they're starting to play more passing downs. Like it just hasn't um, really panned out for the Eagles signing Bryce Huff to this 3 year, 50+ million dollar contract. And yeah, right now it doesn't look good. And the fact that, they say the words like still in the mix for Sirianni, and um, this is a guy that you pay to be a number one type pass rusher. I mean, you don't pay a guy $51 million just to be a part of the rotation, to be your third or fourth best edge rusher. And Bryce Huff hasn't talked to reporters this week after, declining to talk to reporters after the weird incident against Jacksonville where he only played 6 snaps. But I'm starting to question, Bryce Huff's future in Philadelphia. I get they just signed him to a 3 year deal, but it hasn't gone well. And I'm not sure if he's here more than 1 year. Like I don't know how the cap ramifications will affect their decision, but it doesn't seem like him and Vic. It doesn't seem like a good fit, or if they misevaluated Bryce Huff and he's just not a good player. I'm not sure what it is, but it's been the oddest situation the entire year. And I just think Nick saying he's still in the mix yesterday just caught my attention. The fact that like Jalen Hunt snaps could increase as well, which would also, I think, hurt Bryce Huff snaps. It could go down even more. If Bryce Huff's only playing 14, 15 snaps a game, I don't know. Like, it just looks like an awful decision for the Eagles. In the offseason, when they've had a lot of good decisions, it looks like a really rough decision. And he played better against the Giants, and he played better against the Browns. Uh, and he didn't show up really against the Bengals though, and last week was weird. For other than a few glimpses this season, Bryce Huff has been a below average player, and I'm not sure where it goes from here.
All right, cool. Bob, what's your slant?
All right, my slant is going to be the guy to watch right now is Saquon Barkley, and boy, has he been the guy to watch this year. Just got his third NFC Offensive Player of the Week award. He was incredible. He was if not the story of the NFL this week, at least one of the top three with his backwards move, his backwards leap. But that whole run was incredible. But his whole great game was a terrific game. But the concern, um, there are two concerns right now. Saquon looked a little banged up and admitted to having some things after the game. Uh, so that's something to watch. He had a rest day yesterday at practice, and he's had them before. Smart, he's a veteran player. Uh, but the concern, and he also, when asked yesterday about his workload, and he was asked about it Sunday too. He shook it off, but let me give you these numbers. The last time Saquon was worked like this was the 2022 season, which was a terrific season for him. Uh, he had 198 uh, rushing attempts and 931 yards through the first 9 games. Um, and then he had also caught 29 passes for 197 yards at that point. Um, and, and he was terrific. He's got even better numbers than that on less attempts right now. But for over the last um, the last what was it? The last he didn't play the last game. So the last 7 games of that season, he was 97 attempts for 381 yards and averaged under 4 yards a carry. Didn't have any more 100 yard rushing games. It's just something to watch. The workload. This is not a load he's had a whole lot in his career because he's had seasons where he didn't play this much. But right now he's been amazing. He says he's fine, but it's something to watch. I think going forward, the Eagles can't overwork him. They need to uh, make sure he's healthy every week. I'm sure we're going to see times, and we did see it. We saw it in Cincinnati and against the Giants. And it's whenever they got to get a chance, they have to do it. Like if they can build a big lead, they should have done it Sunday. Should have been able to do it Sunday, build a big lead, and let him take some time off in the fourth quarter, and didn't do it. He was partly to blame with the fumble that was returned for a touchdown. Although I still think he should have been ruled down. But going forward, watching Saquon Barkley's workload is definitely something to look at.
Nice, nice. The one I'm taking, and it was alluded to earlier, this is the second game now where we've seen Nick Sirianni's decisions either A, cost him a game or have cost him a game. The first one we remember was that Atlanta Falcons game where there's the question whether it be the play call, whether it be some of those decisions to go with it, what have you. And it wound up losing. You wound up losing the game, which now all of a sudden that looks like it can be with seating implications now. If the Falcons do, with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers having their injuries, the Falcons are in a good position to run away with the NFC South. And if the Eagles do win the NFC East and they're tied, Atlanta has a tiebreaker right now for head to head. So You look at what happened last week against the Jaguars. I understand going for two on the first couple times because what this team has shown beforehand is when you're in short yard situations, they've done well. So when Jacksonville had those penalties that gave the ball to one, okay, I get it. First time tush push, I understand that. The second time, maybe run I'm looking more variational type stuff, or maybe just run a regular running play because they were getting significant yards off the ball. I know it gets real cramped up in the middle there, in the middle of the field on a goal line. That will save you. Then the decision to go for two again later in the game when an extra point would have put you up three possessions, and decided to go for two again on that stuff, and it failed. And it's gotten to the point now where you're wondering, is this going to pop up in a playoff game? And for the future of the Eagles, or if for Nick, if this happens, say in a wild card game, say they're a 2 seed and they're playing a wild card game and it's really close, and he makes a decision, and he comes back and kicks him out, you're starting to wonder if his job's on the line in terms of that, because this team had so much talent, and you look at everything that happens. So I'm looking at decision making. It continues to happen. I know he takes responsibility. He admitted that he probably would have had a couple of those plays back, but the way it's trending right now, I don't know if he's a crash course, if he has another, what has to do, if he has to change something, but something has to give right now, because if not, his job is, I think personally, I think his job is going to be severely on the line in terms of that. Am I way too off base on that?
No, I mean this team. Jeffrey Lurie considers this a team that has a chance to win a Super Bowl, so he's not going to. If we're looking at a team that goes down in the first round of the playoffs, or even in a divisional round, and especially if it's because something, like one of these decisions Nick has made it you go in the Atlanta game, the New Orleans game, and even in this last game, if something like that comes back to bite the Eagles in a playoff game, they're going to look long and hard to bring them back for sure.
All right, cool. Now it's time for the run pass option, where basically I'm gonna give these guys a statement. They can either run with it if they agree with it, or they pass it if they don't agree with it. So, Bob, I'm gonna start with you. First off, it's Dallas and Dallas week. Dallas tight end Dallas Goedert is coming back from his hamstring injury that forced him to miss the last 3 games. And my run pass option question to you: Goddard will have at least 4 catches, one of which will be a touchdown against the Cowboys.
You know what? I'm going to run with that, and that's asking a lot. That's a big game to have 4 catches and a touchdown. But here's why I'm going to run with it. 2 reasons I'm going to run with it. One is Dallas was playing really well before he got hurt. He had the monster game in New Orleans, and followed that up with a good game um, against Tampa before getting hurt against Cleveland. Um, and the other reason is Jalen seems to really have found a connection with his tight end lately, and that goes back to that game against those 2 games I just talked about with Dallas. But it has continued with Grant Calcaterra on the field. In his last 4 games, Grant had 4 for 67, and he just 1 for 5, but then 3 for 58 and 5 for 30. Didn't have a touchdown, and no tight end I don't think has a touchdown for the Eagles this year. Um, but I'm gonna run with it because I think. And I also think that the second reason here is I also think that Dallas Goedert, kind of needs to make a statement that here down the stretch over these last 10 games or 9 games to show that what it's not time for the Eagles to go look out for their next tight end, that he's still their guy. I think he's got something to prove here over these last 9 weeks. So for those 2 reasons, I'm running.
Cade, what are you doing? Running or passing?
I'm gonna pass with it because I think that the main reason is that the way that this offense is going to play in this game. I think they're going to run the ball a ton with Saquon Barkley again. Dallas is 30th against the run, giving up 147.8 yards per game. They're absolutely atrocious in that area. The pass defense is a little better at 18 points a game. So I think a lot of this is going to be a heavy ground game, and they're going to wear out Dallas. And I on top of that, I think it's going to take Dallas Goedert a little bit to get back into the mix of things. Right now, Jalen has a really good rapport with Devontae Smith. We saw the catch against Jacksonville, the one-hand catch and throw, that was incredible. Seems like they've really gotten on the same page to throw against the Bengals as well. Looks like AJ Brown's probably on track to play after being out there at practice. And if AJ and Devontae play, just really not sure if I can see Goddard, who missed all this time, getting back in, getting 4 catches for a touchdown. I think he could have those types of performances again eventually. He was playing really well, like Bob mentioned at the beginning of the season, especially in that Saints game when there was no A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith left the game with a concussion. I mean, Dallas Goedert took over that game, so I still believe he's a really talented player. But because Dallas is bad against the run, and the fact that A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, I think, will both be out there, I don't think he'll catch 4 catches and one will be for a touchdown. I think he'll get involved a little bit, but I just don't expect him to have a big day.
So the Cowboys are allowed next to the fewest amount of catches to the tight end. I think it's 24, and they have allowed 4 touchdown catches. Fun little fact: as much as we remember the Eagles having issues covering tight ends in recent memory, they haven't allowed a touchdown to a tight end, which is crazy. Come to think of it, but yeah, it's crazy. Cayden, with you, next question. With Dak Prescott out, Cooper Rush will keep the Cowboys' offense in this game, keep it close, putting up at least 20 points or more against this Eagles defense. Run or pass?
I'm going to pass on that. Look, I know Cooper Rush went 5-1 when he started the last time back in, I think it was 2022, and he's a competent backup, I think, to a good degree. But Dallas's offense hasn't been great this season with Dak Prescott. I mean, they've put up some points. Like, they put up 24 against San Fran and 21 against Dallas. So they're not the worst offense in the world. But without Dak Prescott, who I think gets hated on a little too much, I still think he's a pretty good quarterback. This offensive line's had struggles this season. Other than CeeDee Lamb, really don't know what wide receiver on Dallas scares you. Like, I don't think it's Jalen Tolbert. I don't think it's Kevontae Turpin. It's definitely, not Brandon Cooks, at this stage. And Brandon Cooks might not even be back for this game. But there was some reports that he might be, but they might not have Brandon Cooks back. And even if they do, he hasn't very good. I mean, really in this game, I'm not worried about the weapons. The run game game's pretty bad with it seems like a weird decision by Jerry Jones to bring back Zeke Elliott and only bring back Rico Dowdle. This Cowboys offense shouldn't scare the Eagles. The Eagles defense is also playing extremely well. The linebacker play with Nakobe Dean and Zach Bond over the last 3 weeks. The defensive line is playing better. The secondary has been playing better. I think it's a bad matchup for Dallas offensively, especially with Cooper Rush at quarterback. I don't see them scoring 20-plus points or 20 or more points with Cooper Rush. I think it's more be around like 14 points. I just don't have much confidence in Dallas.
All right, Bob, what are you doing? Running or passing with that?
I'm just going to put ditto marks up. Pass, ditto marks. Let's move on to the next subject. That's not even worth talking about.
All right, we'll cutting this audio. If it happens, I'm cutting this audio. I might be bringing it back next week. Let's just say that. I don't think he's going to put up monster numbers. I'm looking at that run defense. I'm watching them. They're on notice this week. I'm watching them on that. Finally, Bob, we'll stick with you. Jake Elliott will make a field goal of 50 yards or more this week.
If he tries one, he'll make it because it's a kicker friendly stadium for sure. It's indoors. Even if the roof's open, it's a kicker friendly stadium. It'll mean it's a beautiful day in Dallas. I haven't even looked at the weather yet, but if he gets a chance to kick one, yeah, he'll make it. So I'll run with it on the chance that that they have to try one. Yeah, he's due to make one. He just barely missed the one on Sunday from 57. He's still a really good kicker. He just, if he should have 4 or 5 more field goals than he does this year if Nick would give him the chance and play the situations. I'm not saying all the time, and I'm not saying never to go for it, but I'm gonna run with it. Jake gets a kick over 50 this week.
All right, Cayden, what do you think? Jake Elliott makes a field goal of over 50 yards or more against the Cowboys.
I'll run with it for the chance that he gets the opportunity because he's been one of the best kickers in the league for the last 5 years. I don't see him missing back-to-back 50-yard field goals because of that consistency. So if he gets the opportunity, which I think the Eagles will put up a lot of points in this game, and some of them will be field goals because as good as the Eagles' offense has been in the last few weeks, they've also had moments where they've stalled inside their own 40 or 50-yard line. So I think he'll get the opportunity, and I think he'll make it this time. So I'll run with it too.
Reason that question was on there, he's 10 of 13 this season from making field goals. His 3 misses, all from beyond 50 yards. That's why that question was on the rundown on terms of that. So now we're going to head to our 2-minute drill. This is where we give each of these guys 2 minutes to make their take. If they don't get the take in time, they'll hear the whistle, and then they will curse me out probably for blowing the whistle. Anywho, so now we're going to start with you, Caden, on this one. The Eagles Cowboys rivalry is still the best rivalry in the NFC East. Your time starts now.
Yeah, I'll go no. And look, it's hard to say a rivalry is not the best anymore when you haven't seen the rivalry that I'm about to say that's about to be the best. But like Dallas, I don't know where the future is going. You paid Dak Prescott, and even though I think he's good, I don't think he's good enough to carry that roster, which I think is pretty bad. The offensive line's banked up. Zach Martin's getting older. I don't know how much longer he's going to play. The defense has really bad personnel. Mike McCarthy probably gets fired after this year. A new head coach comes in. I have no confidence in Jerry Jones. Look, the rivalry's been good over the last 4 or 5, 6 years because Dallas has always been the playoff mix and they've always been a contender. I don't know if they're going to be a contender anymore, but the team that is going to be a contender is going to be the Washington Commanders, I think, for the foreseeable future. Dan Quinn's been a successful coach in this league before with the Falcons, and Jaden Daniels has been the best rookie in football. He looks like a top 10 quarterback already. He's having that CJ Stroud type effect on the Commanders. Like they went from a team that everyone expected to finish last in the division or third in the division, and they have a chance to win this division now. And that game next Thursday night, it has a lot on the line, and that could be the start of a really good rivalry over the next 4 or 5 teams. They have some young pieces, and they're going to continue to build. They have a young GM. They're going to have a lot of draft picks, and they're not done building yet. And you have to like and be encouraged from what you've seen from this Washington team. They also just got Marshawn Lattimore at the trade deadline. I think for the next 4 or 5 years, this is the rivalry that's going to be the best rivalry in the NFC East, which if you told me that before the season, I will tell you that you're crazy. But Jaden Daniels has been that good for Washington. It looks like they're establishing a good culture. They've been outperforming expectations, and I think it's only going to continue to get better from here. And it's going to be a new rivalry, and it's going to be tough because as long as Jaden Daniels is there, I think Washington has a chance to be good.
Oh. You ran out of time. I apologize. Sort of. The whistle blew. Womp, 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 womp. Sorry, but yeah, good points. Good points. Just on Mr. Beyond that, you score. Bob, same question to you. The Eagles Cowboys rivalry is still the best rivalry in the division. Your time starts now.
Well, that's a presumptuous statement to begin with, because in my opinion, it was never the best rivalry in the NFC East. That distinction to me always belonged to the Eagles and Giants. And yes, it's been lopsided for a while now, for the last 10 years. Since the Giants won their last Super Bowl, they've been pretty bad. They've won one playoff game, been to the playoffs twice, I think, which makes it hard to have a rivalry. But there's nothing like for fans. There's real hatred for the Cowboys, and those two teams have been competitive. But you know, uh, there's nothing like the Eagles Giants rivalry because of the close proximity of the two places and the history of it. The history goes back. Sorry, people, but the NFL didn't start in 1975 or 1985. It started in the 20s and 30s for the Eagles and Giants. For the Giants in the 20s, for the Eagles in the 30s. They've played incredible games over the years. And the thing about the Eagles Giants is everybody knows and lives near a Giants fan. I happen to live right in the middle of the Jersey. I live in Ocean County, New Jersey, where half the people are Eagles fans, the other half are Giants fans, and when you go out, it's not pretty, but it's entertaining, usually cordial. I've never seen it not be cordial, but I mean, think about the games that they played. To me, there's four Miracle of the Meadowlands, with the Herm Edwards and Deshaun Jackson being the two main ones. But there's other rivalries don't have this. This to me, Giants Eagles, best rivalry in the NFC East and one of the best in the NFL.
I kind of wanted to wait it just to blow the whistle, just to blow the whistle. But yeah, you had like 5 seconds left. Congratulations, you scored. You congratulate, you did it.
All about brevity today. I'm going ditto marks on the stuff Caden said because there was no reason to go with that, and make sure you get your 2 minutes in under 2 minutes. You got to be efficient. You got to be efficient in 2 minute drills.
Where was this when Andy Reid was the coach of this team? I don't know. Anywho, if efficiency, but on bumps. Hey, and finally, we're going to get to our overtime question. I was actually going to ask this a couple weeks ago. I decided, like, okay, yeah, now there's a time thing, but I'm bringing it back for this week as well too. Sticking with rivalries, what is your favorite rivalry? And it could be from sports or anything else. Bob, what's yours?
Oh, Brittany Christina Aguilera for sure. Uh,
What? Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
those two just didn't like each other. Uh, you know, Christina had the better voice. Brittany was the better entertainer. It's got to be Brittany Christina. And I try to surprise you guys every week with a little something, something. And I think that's the something this week. Brittany over Christina.
Yeah, that was a curveball. I was not expecting
I
that
like throwing
whatsoever.
curveballs. It's my best pitch.
I I don't know what to say. Yeah. All right, cool. Kate, what's your best rivalry?
Yeah, I was deciding between two, so I'll bring up both. I think one for college football for me is Army Navy because of like the pageantry involved and just the legacy of that game. I enjoy watching that every year, even though when both those teams aren't very good, I think it's still an enjoyable rivalry and just more for like the stuff outside of the football and just the stadium and just I think it's incredible. Now that both teams are pretty good this year and Army's 18th ranked. I think that game will be even better this season. And then for my current favorite NFL rivalry, and then the game that I look for every year, they seem like they play every year now, is I look at the schedule and I look for Bills Chiefs. I think it's incredible the way it's been the playoff game last year, the playoff game a couple of years ago. Now, the regular season game last year were, uh, I just think it's been just an incredible rivalry, even though the Chiefs have gotten the better of the Bills. Now they're playing again this year on in 10 days. I think that with Josh Allen and Mahomes, the two best quarterbacks in football, going back and forth, I think that rivalry's been amazing.
All right, cool. I mean, you could go Coke, Pepsi. You could go. I don't know. Like, it's just we're go. If you go pop culture reference, like Brittany Christina could go Team Edward, Team Jacob, with all that stuff. I remember all that merchandise at Burger King of all things. Or you go McDonald's, Burger King. Yeah, I'm going with the old traditional football one, Army Navy. That was one of the best. Those were some of the best games I've ever covered. They were, especially I was there. That's the snow game where Army. I was there the game where Army beat their streak with Navy beating them. I want to say 2015. That game was kind of cool. That game was bananas. It went back and forth, and all of a sudden, you just see a sea of army army enrollees rolling down, jumping down the link steps and rushing the field. That was cool. And then again during the following year, it was snowing at the link. It was a good amount of snow on the field as well too. And then Navy tried a decent, well, at the time, college football, like a long field goal, and it went short, and then saw the same scene again happen. So, yeah, to me, that's always the best game. I wish it stayed here in Philly the whole entire time instead of going, oh, let's go to the MetLife. Oh, let's go this one too. But you know what? Yeah, it's still one of the great things. The trading of the Army and the Navy. There's so much pageantry around it, so it makes it fun
Move
for me to
back. Yeah,
watch.
it is a great game. I've covered it a few times. I got two great Army Navy stories. One is just a reflection of what it is. Um, our, it was at the Meadowlands. Army beat Navy. Navy kid from Navy, I think he was a freshman, missed a field goal from like 35 yards, something like that. Uh, we're going back a little bit of ways. It might even been into the 90s, but the kid after the game stood there, answered the questions, and answered every question. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I believe, sir. So, sir. And it was like just a testament to what these guys are all about, and how respectful they are of the game. But my favorite Army Navy story, and I don't know who the writer is, and I've heard it secondhand. There's a writer who went to the Army Navy game, and he was driving home from the Army Navy game, and he realized something, and he called his desk. Now we're going probably back into the 70s, and he said, "Hey, do me a favor, change all the armies to navies and all the navies to armies."
Oh, oh, the pit in the stomach. I can feel that. Oh, I feel
He had been
horrible when I
following
said
the
that.
wrong team the whole game. Now, I don't know
Oh,
if I even believe that story, but it's just a funny story.
that's crazy. But we forgot the best part about the whole entire rivalry. It's the triple option offense is going, or
Oh,
flexible
something
versions is going
different
against
to
each
watch.
other.
Yes.
I love it. It's fun. It's primal. It's primal in football wise, but I love it.
All right, I'm going to
Well,
give you and Caden that round of our competition today. Army Navy is much better answer than Brittany Christie. What was I thinking?
that was out of the box. I like out of the box is always good. On
Yeah,
this show, out of the box is good. It's good.
it's like on a different planet.
All right. Well, Bob, Caden, I thank you guys for joining me today. And all of you listening, I thank you guys for listening to us. We'll have all the coverage on this upcoming Eagles Cowboys game, from the injuries to the analysis and decisions to what happens on the field. We'll have it all. But for Bob and Caden, I'm Chris. Everybody have a good one. See ya.